It's been a long time.
Yeah, I know, man. How many days has it been?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't even remember the last episode we recorded. It's been that many days.
Yeah, I don't either.
But to be honest, life's been a little bit absurd since last time, and that probably contributed to it some too. So
it's like it hit both of us just at once.
Yeah. So I guess it was right after we recorded last time.
Which was Goodnight Mommy was the last one.
Yeah. So that was like early in the week. And then I tried out with that new band. And then the next morning I woke up at 4 a.m. because water was pouring out of my ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a real bad sign because we are not on the top floor of the apartment.
Right.
And so it was just like it was like someone turned on a hose in the ceiling. And then I called the maintenance guy and he's like, yeah, we'll get somebody out there. Then he never came, but I like stayed up, like I was waiting on him to show up, but then I guess I fell asleep. So then I woke up because I could hear power tools upstairs. And so I was just going to work from home and wait for him to come down and like fix our stuff. And then at like 11:30 that morning, I got a call from Sarah that her grandpa was in the hospital and not doing good. So She came home. We had to leave. And traffic was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he passed away while we were driving. And then another car kicked up a rock and it went right through the grill of the Jeep north of Dallas on the way there.
I don't know if I realized that.
Yeah, that was kind of crappy. So then we were there and we hung out for a while, and we were there for over a week. But we helped, with her grandma with cleaning stuff up and going through things at her house and getting all the funeral stuff planned, and then stayed for the services and all of that, and then came back the next weekend. And on the drive home, just north of Dallas, again, we blew out a tire. And then, of course, because it's all-wheel drive, we had to buy 4 tires. So that made the drive longer, but at least it was also really expensive. And then we got back, and work's just been crazy. And but that's a really terrible sequence of events. But I feel like, as tends to happen in life, I have a bad sequence of events, and then you have a worse sequence of events.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worse, but we both just get shit on at the same time.
Yeah, it's like complimentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, first off, the worst part about that whole ordeal you went with, technically, is the grandpa passing away. That's super sad.
Yes.
However, more lightheartedly, is driving through Dallas.
Oh, it's the worst.
I don't know if anyone who listens to us ever experiences Dallas in general, but
like anywhere in that general area, so like Dallas, Fort Worth,
right,
any of the suburbs going into or getting out of, like if you can see signs for Dallas, you're probably having a bad driving experience.
It's the worst experience. I mean, like, it's the reason why Katie and I pay extra money to fly, because we don't want to drive through Dallas.
Yeah.
And we could technically go around, but there's always that chance that you're going to get routed through Dallas. Yep. And it's just, no, I don't want to deal with it. It's ridiculous.
So, and this isn't just an Oklahoma boy thing. I have a coworker who is from Dallas, and all of his family is in Dallas, and he hasn't driven there in 4 years. He said he gave up, and now he just flies.
Yeah. That's perfect. Makes sense.
It's not that far away, but it's just so terrible to drive there.
Yeah. But anyway, so right after that happened with you, we were trying to plan and schedule, the podcast. We're trying to stay on top of it. And then my grandma got really sick. She had a stroke, and then she passed away a week later. And so then we had to deal with the funeral and dealing with family who just hates each other, which I guess is, I feel like that's really common with like older families. Like,
I thought you were going to say that that's something that's common in movies, because I feel like in a lot of movies you have bad families.
Yeah, in movies, but I feel like it's like an older thing. Like me and my siblings, we get along very well. Like you hear these grudges that these old people have against each other, and they're, in their 50s, 60s year old, and it's like, so you're mad at something they did back in like 8th grade?
Yeah.
What was that, like 80 years ago for you? Get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you get roped into like,
yeah,
they try to rope you in, and you're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just here to respect my grandma. That's what. Anyway,
it's like, don't you know that she called me fat when we were 13?
Exactly.
How could you be on her side?
Like that.
Yeah.
She's always been like that. Why are you friends with her on Facebook? And it's like, I don't even know. I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't even remember my Facebook password.
I know. Yeah. So had that happen, and then it was like mine and Katie's birthday.
Yeah.
So we Katie's birthday's 5 days before mine, and so we had kind of had that.
Was your flood right before all this or during?
My flood happened actually in my house happened in May.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was like middle to end of May.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a flood. My HVAC unit backed up with water, and it flooded my hallway, ruined drywall and carpet, and it was just a mess. We got that fixed. For the record, if your HVAC ever floods, you can get a sensor put on there. For the most part, most HVACs get a sensor put on there, so if water backs up, it shuts the HVAC unit off and doesn't ruin your life.
On today's episode of This Old House,
I'm just saying. So that happened. My grandma, then your stuff. My grandma passed away, and then we had our birthdays, and I had like 4 days off, and I was kind of pumped. I haven't really had many days off this year, unless it was for a funeral or taking my mom to the hospital.
Yeah.
And then my air conditioner unit stopped working. It was a Friday.
Was it nice and cool outside? It's
in Oklahoma in July 5th, so no. It was the worst. It was literally, so it went out Friday. We have home warranty. We called them, and it takes 24 to 48 hours. So any home warranty place, if it says 24 to 48 hours, expect a call after 48 hours, just in my experience.
Yeah. So
that happened on Friday, and we're dealing with like a heat index of like 100, 105 degrees here in Oklahoma. And anyway, not to get too in depth, they found the problem on a Monday. My compressor was still under warranty. The bad thing is that it required they don't let you expedite a warranty shipping, like them shipping a warranty item. So that part didn't come in for another, what would that be? 9 days. So I didn't have AC from July 5th until July 16th or something. But it was the hottest week that we had, like literally dealing with heat index of whatever, 100. I know you're in Texas, but we're still ridiculous.
Yes.
I didn't tell you this. The AC wasn't actually working correctly. It wouldn't get below 78 degrees.
Oh, God.
So, which is still better than what it was. It was, on one day without the AC, it was 90 degrees in my house.
I just sweat through my shirt.
I know, dude.
Just hearing that.
It sucked bad. But
I hate it.
It was so hot, and we had 100 degree temperature, but the heat index was ridiculous. I knew if I called them, that's how it's gonna be. It's air conditioner. So I let it go. This week is cooler in Oklahoma this week, so we're looking at like 80s.
Yeah.
Which is super nice here during summer. And so yesterday I came home for lunch to check on the dogs. It was 78 degrees outside, and it was 73 in the house, and I had it set at 71 or 72. I had it set at 72.
Yeah.
It was at 73. I was like, no, that's not right. And so I went out and looked, and my AC froze up.
Oh, that sucks.
Which is crazy. I don't know if you've ever had an AC freeze on you, but it literally like ices the line.
Yeah.
Like I had ice, a thick coat of ice from like it starts freezing inside. So my HVAC unit inside was frozen. Yeah. Anyway, I could go on about this. So I called them. Come to find out, when they replaced the compressor, they didn't put enough refrigerant in it. They didn't balance it right, and so they fixed that issue, and now it's actually cold in my house. So
nice.
I am back to normal. Yesterday I was pretty pissed. I wasn't going to not record today. Well, and then also we were going to record on Sunday. My brother-in-law wrecks his motorcycle.
Yeah.
Goes to hospital. It's just been shit.
It has. It's really just been kind of a terrible couple of months here.
Yeah. Getting our butts kicked. But the best part about this whole thing is, but we are continuing on. Yeah. With this podcast, and it was also cool to see people still listening. Yes. Even though we had videos.
For sure.
Like we had like some higher listens on those days where we hadn't been posting anything.
It's actually better for the podcast when we aren't involved with it.
Yeah, when we aren't posting anything.
Yeah.
But we do. I mean, definitely. I don't want to say I even apologize, because we didn't. It's not like we wanted these things to happen. We would rather be recording, but we maybe I should have been a little bit better at posting on Facebook about updates. But
I also feel like we just gave a solid 10 minutes of excuses, and that's a lot of effort to apologize for something we don't actually have to apologize for. Yeah, so if anyone's still unhappy, well, we'd be happy to give you your money back on this free download.
This ad-free download.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
But
anyway, it's been intense. But I think it's also just like we needed the break. We were going strong, for a while. Yeah, and I think we kind of realized why we're doing it, and it's not like.
Well, and I'm excited because we've talked about kind of where we wanted to go next, and when the downpour of life happened, we were kind of getting close to the end of season 5, and so we talked about it and we decided we're just gonna start season 6 here today. And season 6 is gonna be really different, and I'm excited about that because really we're doing this for our own entertainment at the end of the day. If other people listen, good for them. You know what? Actually, maybe not good for them. I don't care. This is us. We're doing our thing, you know?
Right.
And so
it's like we appreciate it. We definitely want it. Yeah. We like the input. We like that idea. But we would be having these conversations anyway about what we kind of talk about. Yeah. And so I think the idea is to, let's make it more.
I have a confession.
Us.
I was just trying to sound really cool, like I didn't care, so that you would think I was tough. I care.
I know.
I love the people that listen to this podcast. I love the people that email us. I like the people that post on or like stuff on the internet. It's nice because it's part of a community. It's like we have this interest in this type of movie, and there are other people out there, but it's not the majority of people. And so the people that are interested are people that I like, and this is a way that we can kind of connect with them, and it's really cool. So I'm going to pretend that I don't care and like I'm too good for it, but I do. I like you guys. I'll never say it again, but here.
I'm going to do that too. I'm going to just say this. Freak you a-holes. I'm trying to watch my cussing.
Ooh. That's
Not for any other
a new
reason
twist
than
for
the
this
fact
season.
that I'm afraid that people I work with are going to start listening.
I can almost guarantee that no one you work with will ever hear about
I know. I would think that too, but I had my laptop with me in a meeting this last Friday, and it has our sticker on there.
Ooh.
And I was like, ooh. What's that? Free sign? And I was like, ooh, don't know them.
Yep. It was on the computer when I bought it. I
have trivia for you real quick.
Okay.
Can you guess what the age is of the youngest, sexiest man alive since 1985 to 2018? The youngest, sexiest man alive.
Vladimir Putin.
Close.
Did you see that picture of him shirtless on the horse?
Ass, for the record. Second, no, it's not. But also, I asked the age and you gave me a name.
That's true. Well, I'm trying to figure out who it would be. Like, who would have won it when they were young?
Yeah. It was. I will tell you this. It was in 1988.
Gonna guess that John Cusack was 23 in 1988.
That's a good guess. However, it was actually John F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh.
1988.
Okay.
He was 27 years old.
Wow.
The next youngest was Tom Cruise in 1980 or 1990. He was 28.
Was that how long after Risky Business was that?
Probably not long after. Mel Gibson won it in 1985 at 29.
Oh, have you seen that chest hair? That guy can do anything.
I know. And then he has like that Australian American accent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Harrison Ford won it in 1998 at 56.
Yeah.
So there's hope for us.
I think Harrison Ford could win it again today.
Sure, that son of a bitch. Anyway.
Your no swearing thing made it like almost 2 minutes.
It was a long time.
I have no idea how to recover from that. Anyway, season 6, we decided...
That's from Esquire magazine.
Oh.
Even Sexiest Man Alive is from
okay, gotcha. I thought it was a Time magazine thing. I don't know why. That's a terrible assumption on my part. But
they're all tied together.
Yeah. So we decided that for season 6, we were going to do something really different. And we found...
Talking about the sexiest men in the world.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a recurring theme this season. Just you wait. But we found a list on Esquire that is the 50 scariest movies of all time.
Right.
And we come across lists like that a lot because we're interested in horror movies and we read about them and we look for recommendations about them and we look up reviews of them, and sometimes it is on these lists. And looking through this one, there were a lot of things that stood out to it that made me feel like it was better than a lot of lists. And we're going to go through it this season. And we've already done like 18 of the 50. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go through the rest of them. So this may be like a couple of season spanning type thing.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But we're just going to do it. And we're going to kind of keep track of where they rank against each other. And we're also really going to focus on the scary aspect. So the point of the list is to be the scariest movies. And that's kind of always been like the center of what we have found interesting about horror movies is like, how do people try to be scary and then do they pull it off? And like, what are the things that can make these actors on a screen coming through a TV actually like impact you in a way that makes you feel a way that you don't like to feel? Like, that's just such a difficult challenge. Right. And it's so interesting to see all the ways that people try to do that. That's kind of always been like sort of the core of what we've been looking at. And so this list we feel like is going to be very focused in that. And this season's going to be also focused on that, in that a lot of our looking at the movie is going to be centered around, was it scary or not? How was it trying to be scary? And why did it work or why didn't it work? And it's not going to be as much about like how well was the movie made or anything like that. How much did we like it as a movie? It's going to be very strict. Was this a good horror movie and did it scare you? And I'm so excited because there's a bunch of movies on here I haven't heard of, and I hope at least a few of them are good.
Yeah. And this list actually came out October 19th, 2018.
Yeah.
So
it's a recent one. Yeah,
relatively recent, but anything that came out since then, it isn't obviously on the list.
Yeah. And they also have apparently good lists about sexy men.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll go through those weekly too.
Nothing that can go poorly if you visit this website.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as this list in particular, there were a lot of things that stood out to me about it. One was that we'd already seen a lot of the movies, and I've heard of most of them, but there are also some that like aren't even on my radar at all. And so I'm excited to be introduced to new ones. But I also thought there was a really good mix of subgenres. So there are like creature movies and zombie movies and hauntings and psychological stuff and slashers. So it's a good mix. I feel like we're not going to get stuck in a rut. But it's also going to be interesting to look at those sort of next to each other week to week.
Yeah, and you also run into, with a lot of lists that we see, you run into a lot of common, like the scariest movies of all time. Like, it seems like they're all relatively using the same list.
A little copy-paste going on.
A little bit. And this one definitely does. I mean, it's horror movies. It's not like it's, been the most movies put out ever, but this definitely added some in there that, I don't think's as well known. Yeah. And I think it's definitely a cool little influence us a little bit more to watch some of these movies.
Yeah, and I really like how the time span is very wide. Mm-hmm. And so, and there's like multiple generations of things, like Night of the Living Dead and 28 Days Later. To me, those movies go really well together on a list like this, because you see where a concept was really like born and popularized, and then sort of where it's like progressed over the history of the genre. Mm-hmm. And I think that we'll probably see more of that as we watch more of the movies. And kind of catching some of those relationships and seeing like, oh, wow, a lot of the ideas from this movie that we've seen recently really started with this movie that happened, a long time ago. Yeah. And so I'm excited for it from that perspective. And I guess the only real... Well, okay, so I got two things I'm worried about for the season. Number one is a couple of these are pretty obscure, and there are a couple of them that we'd talked about doing before, but we couldn't find a place to stream. Yeah. So it is possible we might have to skip a couple if we can't find a way to watch them. But the other thing that worries me is I really don't want to watch Human Centipede again. I have never successfully finished that movie.
Yeah.
It's so rough, dude.
Yeah, it is pretty intense. Like, that's definitely a messed up movie, but honestly, like, I think as far as like messed up goes, like Cannibal Holocaust, I think is pretty effed up.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think that's the one that, like, at the time it came out, it was like lawsuits thinking that actual people had died, I guess, or something like that, because it's so...
Actually, I think I've read that too. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to watch it, just because I want to see your opinion on it. But yeah, Human Centipede is just ridiculous. But
yeah, but we will, because
also, like, okay, you can say about any of these movies, but this one specifically, you can say, oh, it's just a movie, but someone sat there and thought this idea up.
Yeah, and then they spent like months reenacting these ideas with other people.
This isn't just like a podcast that you could put together quickly
and then forget about. Yeah. They had to sit there and like edit it. I mean, do you know how many hours the creators of Human Centipede spent with Human Centipede?
Yeah, man, that's great. I can't believe that. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. At least it's not like Human Centipede 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever, however many there are now.
Yeah. I just, of all the concepts that didn't need a sequel.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, like we mentioned, we've seen 19 or 18, I guess, so far of the movies on the list. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about, sort of focusing on most scary to least scary. And I was just wondering what some of your initial impressions of it were from the movies that we've seen so far.
So I would say, a lot of mine, well...
Do you want me to go through them real quick, the ones that we've already done?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can do that. I can also... Do you want me to just say it? Are you putting them in order?
Yeah, I've got them in order, if that's okay. So the ones that we've already seen are Scream, Let the Right One In, Frankenstein, The Others, 28 Days Later, Get Out, Alien, Goodnight Mommy, The Strangers, Black Christmas, Carrie, The Blair Witch Project, Psycho, Rosemary's Baby, Silence of the Lambs, Halloween, and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right. Yeah. So the thing with the list is some of my favorite horror movies aren't the scariest. Like, this specifically is scariest list, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, the most scary was The Strangers.
That was number 2 for me.
Yeah, so we've talked about this, but my horror that freaks me out the most is the ones that I feel like could actually happen.
Yeah.
Which, I guess anything's possible, but like The Strangers is something you could see legit happening.
Yeah.
Just couple getting messed with in a cabin, and of course there are things that they do during that movie that are just kind of stupid.
Yeah, naturally.
But
people are dumb.
You have with that, and you have to have that kind of stuff in these horror movies to continue the suspense.
Yeah.
And all that, but yeah, that was probably my number one sketchiest movie
for me
on this list.
For me, 28 Days Later and The Strangers both ranked up there.
Strangers number 2, or 28 Days Later is number 2 for me.
Yeah, there we go. In that, I thought that they were just like there was nothing in them that was bad enough to distract from them being scary. So They did basically exactly what they wanted to do the whole time. And 28 Days Later, I thought, had a lot of... Well, just go back and listen to the episode. Obviously, we both really like that movie. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like The Strangers, just as a straight-up horror movie, put you in the environment, get you on edge, was also kind of on that same level.
Yeah, and I think with 28 Days Later, it's because of the introducing... I don't know if introducing, but having fast zombies.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if a zombie attack happens, you got the slow ones. Okay, you can deal with that for the most part. But these fast ones are just their rage. It's just anger, and it's just like, God, that's intense. They just want to kill,
Yeah.
So
yeah. So after those two, I kind of had like Rosemary's Baby, Alien, and Halloween all kind of grouped together.
Okay.
And maybe even Texas Chainsaw in that group as well. In that I felt like they all were pretty intense, but I feel like they also all had some like movie making things that sort of took you out of the moment. Mm-hmm. Like they just were not kind of executed on that same level, but they had a really good concept that was frightening. And so there were moments, in each of those movies where you felt very, very pulled into it and like super tense and on edge. But they maybe, just didn't translate as well to today when we went back and watched them.
Yeah, I think like the next couple for mine was the Blair Witch. That one is sketchy just in itself. It could also be with the fact that I watched it young, Yeah,
and that one was next on my list too. So that fits.
The Blair Witch, Silence of the Lambs really creeped me out. Yet again, it's that whole I feel like that could actually happen kind of thing. Anyway, I could go on about that. And then let's see the next one. So I did Blair Witch, Silence of the Lamb, and then Halloween.
Yeah.
And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre after that was yet again just it's
so
there's a reason why those have been around for so long.
Oh, sure.
And I think fright has something to do with it.
Yeah. So were Rosemary's Baby and Alien close at all for you?
Those were actually... So after Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I have Psycho, and then I had Rosemary's Baby, and then... Alien was like... Well, it's at number 14 on the list for me.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I guess it's 13. Yeah. So it went Rosemary's Baby, Alien. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really surprised that The Exorcist wasn't on this list.
I was surprised that, and also, what's your favorite?
The Witch.
Your second favorite. Gosh darn it! I'm sorry. It's the Paranormal Activity.
Oh yeah.
I was surprised that wasn't
really
on the list. I was like, because there's on this list there is something I think it's called like The Witcher or something like that.
The Witches. Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what the hell is a witch on there? But then I thought, Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
But
that is kind of
not scary to them. It's not our all-time list, so
yeah. So that just means we get to explain why they're wrong. It gives us stuff to talk about. But yeah, so I guess kind of next, I had like Night of the Living Dead and Psycho and Carrie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had 28 Days Later, Carrie, 28 Days, or I'm sorry, not 28 Days Later. I had Get Out, Carrie, Get Out, the whole paralysis thing.
Yeah.
That really freaks me out. Carrie, just because that's a intense story in itself.
Yeah.
I love the ending for it. And then I had Scream next after that.
Yeah, so I was kind of getting into like Get Out and Silence of the Lambs around that part. And the reason for that is those two, I think, are two of the best movies on the list. They just, neither of them ever really made me feel scared. And I think that if I had seen Silence of the Lambs when I was younger, like at the time that it came out, it probably would have had more of an impact. But just after years and years of watching like super intense and gory horror movies, to me that one seemed like more like a thriller or more like investigation, and a little bit less like horror association.
Yeah.
And then
this, with this list is kind of hard too, because one of my favorite movies is definitely not the scariest. With Frankenstein,
yeah.
But it's like,
same.
it's like, well, it's not scary. I mean, to me, I just think it's a great story and all that. But
yeah, and then like Black Christmas and Psycho were kind of down in that area. Goodnight Mommy too, in that they all had like gory, kind of cringeworthy, like intense moments, but on the whole didn't really like stick with me.
Yeah.
But did you see, so the people that made Goodnight Mommy are because we had heard they were doing the remake, right?
Right.
But there's like another movie coming out that's by the same people, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be like an actual remake or if it's just the same people, And looking at the preview, it seems super, super dark and super intense, and it looks like it could maybe end up being a very similar story with a similar twist. But if so, they were really trying not to tip their hand at all in the preview.
Oh, so is it The Lodge?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that looks interesting.
Yeah, it looks really good. So,
nice.
Yeah. Anyway, something
just about that. I mean, Goodnight Mommy was almost refreshing because it was a different style story.
Sure. Yeah.
Definitely reminded me of the first movie we did our podcast on. I can't remember now. Anyway,
yeah.
Our first podcast we ever did, it reminded me of that. It's gonna kill me. Anyway,
I want to call it The Game, but I know that's not right.
Funny Games.
Funny Games, yeah.
Funny Games. It reminded me of Funny Games, just like the same filming style, I guess, and it was also Anyway, so after those, I have like my last ones on the list. Basically, I have Frankenstein. I put Frankenstein in front of the others and Let the Right One In on principle alone.
What's amazing is I did exactly the same thing. This is creepy. But it makes sense because we've already talked about all of these movies. Like, I know how you feel about them. You know how I feel about them. And
right.
I feel like the whole reason we enjoy talking about this is because there's a lot of overlap in our taste. But it's funny because that is exactly my last three was Frankenstein, the others, and Let the Right One In.
Yeah, I think with, Frankenstein, I could definitely see how it could be scary back then, but definitely not as much nowadays. But I thought the others was cool. I think you and I are kind of on the side of people that don't understand Let the Right One In.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that we don't understand it, but it's just, it seems like that's like cilantro, man. Either you love it or hate it. And
Let the Right One In definitely tastes like soap to me.
It did. Me too, man. Me too. So
yeah.
But this is definitely an interesting list, and I think it's cool because there's movies that we probably wouldn't have done for a while on here.
Yeah.
That wouldn't even have thought of, like the next one that we're going to be doing, and it's kind of opening our eyes, which is another reason we talk about doing this podcast, because we enjoyed doing it. And we talk about these movies anyways, but also it helps us open up and watch movies we wouldn't normally have watched.
For sure. And I know that we went through all those kind of fast, but if anyone is interested in specific opinions, we have our entire back catalog of podcasts that you can go download and hear the full discussion. But I guess as far as for the rest of season 6, we're going to dive right in and just start at number 50 on the list and work our way towards number 1 and just do all the ones that we haven't done yet. And so the first, I guess, typical episode of season 6 will be next week, and that's going to be about the movie Blood and Black Lace from 1964. And I think we're going to have some format changes a little bit. We're not going to do like splitting the episode up and doing the spoiler-free part in the beginning and then the spoilery part at the end. It just makes the discussion hard when you have to leave out a lot of the movie. Right. Especially when so many of these movies are like hinging on these really, really good scenes or these really big, story developments and stuff. And it's hard to separate it out, and I think it makes for less interesting conversation. So,
and it gets annoying to have to say like, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, and then generally like I forget to get to it later.
Yeah.
And so it's just like half the podcast is just some asshole saying we'll get to it later, and it's just doesn't happen.
Well, actually, that's the only part I wanted to keep. We're cutting everything else.
we're just gonna about this later.
We're just gonna allude to things that we might talk about later for half an hour, and then we'll say bye.
See you later.
Yeah, miss you.
Yeah,
but yeah. So I'm excited for it. Season 6 is going to be a lot of fun. There are a lot of movies on this list that I am very excited to see. And as we already mentioned, some I'm not so excited to see. But it should make for lively discussion.
I think you should. I think you should for sure. I bet we'll be surprised about some of these.
Yeah. Also, I feel like things are just kind of generally on the ups for both of us. Because I feel like we've probably used up all of our bad luck.
Man, knock on
wood. For
wood.
The year.
This year's kicked my ass, man.
Yeah. And we could both go on with 100 things that didn't make it on that have happened. But yeah, it's been an adventure, but we still got each other. We still got horror movies. We still got sexiest boys alive and sexiest men alive on our new favorite website. And the future's bright.
Yep. Hell yeah.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.
The youngest, sexiest man alive.
Okay, so you just said that your neighbor's internet name is Yankee Rascal.
Correct.
And I feel like I feel like we need to back up just a little bit. How do you know that?
So, okay. So I was going to turn my Wi-Fi off, because we got to do that because Skype can suck an ass every once in a while. Mm. The strongest, so I'm at the south side of my house.
Okay.
The closest house is literally, what do you say, like 10 feet over? It's not very far from my house.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah, and I'm basically at that wall. So the strongest internet connection I have right now that I can connect to that's not mine is called Yankee Rascal.
Oh, you're saying it's like their Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were saying that was their username on something.
Oh, no, that's the name of
it out.
That's the name. No, I wish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will you ever see that person and not think that's Yankee Rascal forever?
No, but I'm going to probably write them a letter and just tell them I respect them for making that decision because you're 100 years old and you decided to change that, even though you don't have to. Mm-hmm. But you still did.
Yeah, like most old people would just be like ATT, then a bunch of numbers and letters.
You know what's crazy is that I have currently I can pick up 10 different Wi-Fi connections.
Do you think that's doing anything weird to your health?
I think personally that it's the CIA or the FBI, but I've been getting like into paranoia schizophrenia lately.
Getting into it like it's a thing you find fascinating, or getting into it like WebMD says you have it?
No, WebMD doesn't say I have it, but every once in a while I'll hear something and it tells me I do.
Oh, okay.
But it's all brought on because of the feds.
Okay.
Is that paranoia schizophrenia?
No, I think it's just a healthy sense of realism.
Thank you. Or it's just Katie. She says stuff every once in a while.
Wouldn't that be mean if she was just occasionally like whispering crazy things in the house, and then like you turn around and then she just acts like nothing happened?
Who's the one who has paranoia schizophrenia now, Daniel? Wait, that's just paranoia.
Yeah.
I think the thing is you don't... I literally just got your text message.
I sent that weeks ago.
Those Wi-Fi... Anyway, I think the thing with paranoia schizophrenia or any type of crazy thing is you don't realize that you're going crazy. So if you ever go crazy, I'll tell you, man.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yep.
And
don't tell me. I just want to go with it.
Oh, yeah, because if you don't know, you're not really crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I feel like I could... Like, when I get arrested, like, I wouldn't know, and so it wouldn't...
Yeah.
I'd be, like, not guilty.
Well, that would be, like, proof that
or
you really are
insanity.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Is because you're like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if I do something, then you're just going to be like, no, I told him he was having problems. Lock him up.
For the love of God, arrest that man.
Yeah.